One open agenda item left to deal with, which is item 11, the closeout reports. So what we've got here is a list of closeout reports which have been requested by the chair. Reasonably self-explanatory situation, and obviously quite a variety of projects in these closeout reports in terms of size, in terms of work stream and work area. Was there any commentary from staff on this before we take questions?
No, Chair, you've pretty much said what I was going to say.
Indeed.
Yeah, we provided the list to Councillor Manji, sorry, and he's chosen that list that's in the report. The list on the attachment on the report is just the projects that have closed out in the period from February to May. So
the attachment essentially is the list of possible projects that could have been chosen for this list.
Correct.
And the list in the recommendation is essentially the chair's recommendation out of that list in the appendix.
That's correct. The list that went to Councillor Manji was slightly bigger because that was projects that have moved into the close phase. So effectively, for intents and purposes, the asset is complete and is available for its intended use. The list in this report is the projects that have the project manager has kind of signed off project completion, which is the completion of the asset, if that makes sense.
All right.
Yeah.
So of the projects that are on the list in item 2 of the recommendation, some of those presumably have already had closeout reports written, or the information that would feed into the closeout report is already easily available?
That's correct.
Are there any projects on that list where there would be significant resource or expense required to produce a closeout report?
I can't answer that specifically, but I will say that closeout reports are typically just standard project management practice. That said, we have to consider sort of scalability of the projects to make sure that we're not creating significant closeout reports for small projects that don't require it. So it would depend very much on the project.
But we could confidently be living in a world where we expect that a closeout report of some type is written in respect of just about every project anyway.
In some form, yes, correct.
Yeah, all right, that's fine. I guess what I'm saying is we want to get to a position where relevant information is brought in front of this committee that's helpful and useful and valuable. But what we don't want to do is to generate a whole heap of work that first of all costs a lot, but probably just as importantly takes resource away from projects that we're wanting to deliver, because we're focusing on these closeout reports. If there's a significant amount of work required, bringing them to us. It sounds as though much of the work to prepare a report would be done anyway, so we're not adding significant volume of work to anybody's workload.
Yeah, I'd say that's correct. Most of the information is part of the project management package, if you like, and they're just compiling that information. So
all right, that's good for us to know.
Yep.
That's fine, thank you. Okay, so questions on the report that's in front of us. Yanni.
I think one of the problems, it's really good to get the list, but we don't get any sense of the value of those projects. So I'm sort of struggling to understand how some of the projects have been selected by the chair, what the criteria was, etc. So it might be quite good in the future to actually get the value of the projects as well, so we can see. Just specifically in regards to Knight's Drain, I'm puzzled why, given that project is not complete for stages 3, I don't know about stage 2, why we would be reviewing it now.
I'm not sure how that...
Well, the review is specifically stage 1. Well, if there are other stages which are not yet complete, but stage 1 is complete, it would be perfectly possible to review the stage which is complete, I would imagine.
Well, I can't see what the value is, because the big issue with that one was, of course, that we chose not to do it on our land, but to do it in an area where there was existing private property, which has led to delays completing it. But we're not going to get that from this closeout report, and that's probably the more critical thing.
So that might lead
to understand why we would be we should be looking at that project as a review I understand that we are doing that because of the delays, but I don't know if anyone else can.
But if
speak
it's
to
not completed, we obviously won't be able to review the whole project. I guess the question would be, is there value in reviewing, is there a value in a closeout report on stage one when actually the real value might be in a closeout report once the final stage is complete and therefore a review of the whole project all at the same time?
It's completely bizarre to do stage one. I don't know what the rationale is for it.
All right, let's hear
Which
from
was a
Dave.
skirt project as well, not even a
Yeah, let's hear
council
from
project.
Dave.
We have programs that drop into projects, and so all of our programs are delivered by projects, and so this is a review of part of that project. There will be a review that will go to the Land Drainage Working Party when the Knights drain's completed. Does it deliver the levels of service, which is a different kind of review. This is a, how do we procure it? What were the barriers? Did we have resource consent issues? And that is done on a project by project. You could hold it if you wanted to and say, well, bring the 3 closeout reports and if we break it into 3, and then you could look at it. However, I think there will be lessons learned at each project stage, and that's why I can't speak for the chairperson, but I presume he's just saying, well, we're delivering a lot of projects and programs like this, and so there may be a lesson learned that not only for Knights Drain, but for the other land drainage program work that we're doing.
So your advice in response to the question is that there is value in looking at stage 1 of Knights Drain, despite the whole project hasn't yet been completed.
And you may again have a look at it at stage 3 as when that's completed as well, if you felt that was...
Obviously could choose to do that.
Stage 3 on track? Is that just all progressing?
This isn't the opportunity for asking those kind of questions. This is, you know, we're focusing on whether this is the right list of closeout reports that we want.
Right.
So if there are questions on that, that would be put through the land drainage programme or through the ITI committee.
Well, can I just check then? Because my understanding is that Knights Drain Stage 1 was a skirt project, not even a council project.
I can't answer that question, sorry.
David, have you got any comment on that?
No, I'll can find it if I...
Oh, on our website, Stage 1, a new pump station and pressure main on Anzac Drive to discharge water from Knights Drain into Avon River. Stage 1 was completed by Skirt in 2017.
I suspect that must be something different, Yanni, because these are projects that have been completed in the last 6 months.
Well, can anyone tell me what this project is then?
Can we look into that as part of... So if this project was approved on this list and it turned out that it was a project that wasn't completed in the last 6 months or that was a skirt project, presumably that would lead to further feedback that it wasn't appropriate to be part of this list. But I would suggest that that work has already been done before it formed part of this recommendation, that we know that it is a project that was completed in the last 6 months and that this project, as distinct from the one that Yanni's talking about, wasn't in fact a skirt project, otherwise it wouldn't be on this list. I'm working in that environment, I think it's fair to say.
All right. Can I just ask, there's some other ones that I'd like added. The Hagley Oval, I think we need a closeout project on that whole project from inception to completion.
So was Hagley Oval completed in the last 6 months?
Well, it's confusing because when we agreed to it, no further ratepayer dollar was going into it. There's been a number of decisions that have been made where other money's been put into it and it's been expanded. I think that Hagley project, in terms of the cricket and the oval, we do need to have a closeout report over, you know, the decisions that have been made and the scope, how things have been allocated. Like, for example, our board's never had a report on it, and yet the work is being done. So, yeah, but that's on here. I would just flag that that's one, particularly with the lighting issue, which seems to be coming up again, that we do need to get some understanding of it.
I mean, if the purpose of this is to look at projects which will inform the way that we deal with future similar projects, the Hagley Oval was quite unique, and probably some of the difficulties around it have been because of its uniqueness and the unique circumstances in which it was created and run. So whether it's got the same sort of value, I mean, it may well be that doing a review of that project has got value, but for other reasons than why we're looking at this list of projects in terms of informing the way we deal with future similar projects.
But I think we want confidence that if we've set a budget to do something, and then that's what gets done. And, you know, we have had, it's been raised at Finance and Performance previously around some of the concerns around the Hagley Oval for delays or for budgets. I personally think it's a good one to review. The only other question I had was, I noticed that there was no IT projects that were put on the closeout report. I think, and again, it's hard with the level of detail that we've got to know what IT projects, you know, are really the significant ones. But it does seem that there's some in here that possibly could have been, like the common business SAP enhancements, etc. So I just wondered whether there's any, if we could identify an IT one to review, you know, have a closeout report around, I think would be useful. Because I'm still struggling to understand how we've got new technology that's not able to provide the information that we need.
Yeah. Again, it's whether that would be, so the 2 ITS system renewal, no, that's something different again. So which projects, Yanni, are you referring to off the appendix list?
Can I suggest that we maybe take, oh yeah, thanks Leon.
I might be able to help with that. Some of these are quite low value bundles. Some of them are only about like 50, 60,000. Some of them are sort of 200,000. They're kind of like a bundle of money. So rather than going through full projects, that when we need to enhance or change things because business has changed or there's an issue we're trying to address or a business improvement, they're quite small bits of money. But the bigger ones we do closeouts for. Yep. So does that help?
Yeah,
yep.
That's why
they don't mean anything. You're quite right. Yeah. No. No.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, certainly having a look at forward IT budgets and the value that we might get and learning from what we've already done and so on is something relevant, and that probably will form part of the LTP discussion. This is simply today working out which closeout reports we want on this list, so which projects we want on this list for the closeout reports and which we don't. Coming back to the Hagley Oval one, we've got the Hagley Oval delivery package 34328. Presumably that's something different than the whole Hagley Oval project, which has been running for, you know, which has had different parts for a number of years.
And when you've got a venue, a sporting venue that also runs sport that is controlled by a world body, when standards change globally, that affects us here too. So there are ebbs and flows, it's fluid. So and that's beyond anything that we can actually plan for and kind of control. So it's just that one of those things.
I'm not criticising that.
No.
Yep.
Raised concerns, given that the local community boards raised concerns, given that, you know, it's not something we've had a lot of visibility about. I think getting a closeout report around it would be really good. But the final question I had was around Ferrymaid Bridge. That wasn't completed last year, was it? I mean, that project was completed quite some time ago. So just trying to understand a little bit about the scope of that review, because I do support that. I thought we did get some information back when it was complete, Dave. I think you may have just come in as manager around Ferrymaid Bridge.
Sorry, what was this?
The Ferrymaid Bridge project.
I think that one, and I was just talking about that before there, the bridge had been finished basically. It started off over the earthquake, but there was a lot of roadworks at the either end of them that was done under, and so I presume that's the completion of a wide range of, we bought properties and things like that, so that's the completion of the bridge and the associated roadworks, I presume, in that project.
But that wasn't completed between February and May 19.
And I think what may be causing some confusion, there's a bit of ambiguity around when the project managers put in the milestone completion date, whether they do that before defects liability or after. So sometimes
by
the projects...
the time you get the maintenance contract period, the retentions time and all the rest of it, it probably was, because we did a whole range of traffic stuff at the end that went on and on and on and on and on.
Well, if this includes the changes to the St Andrews Hill intersection and so on, that was far more recent. than the main part of the project of actually building the bridge and the approaches and so on. But then there was that second intervention around that particular junction, which may well have fallen into the period that we're talking about. So if the project wasn't able to be signed off as complete until the rework of that intersection had been done, that would explain why the completion of the whole project has fallen in this period. My belief is that that's a good one for us to be doing a closeout report on anyway.
I just wanted to make sure that the scope will include things like the Penfolds Cottage, the 3-laning of Main Road, the coastal pathway, all the works in that vicinity, because I think the best lessons learnt will be from that, because basically, you know, decisions were made in isolation that had a negative impact on some of the decisions we had to make later on around roading because of certain assumptions, and it would be really good just to understand how that happened and how we can address it going forward.
Bearing in mind that a closeout report is specific to the particular project that the report relates to, so anything that was part of that project could form part of the closeout report, but kind of the wider environmental considerations of the project wouldn't. But, I mean, when we get the reports through, if there are things that we're expecting to see in there that are not there, that will be the time to raise these issues.
Well, that's why I'm raising the scope. It's like the point Mike made before about the water main bursting underneath a brand new cycleway. Like, if we don't learn from these things, then, you know, we just look at the cycleway, we don't look at the water main, then we end up just wasting money.
Yeah, so when we get the closeout report on the Ferrymead Bridge project back, there'll be things that are contained in there and there'll be things that won't be contained in there. If there's contextual debate at that time, fair enough, but we need to be careful that the closeout report relates to the project that's been closed out.
Well, that one's very vague, and it's not, you know, given that it's just recently been closed and the bridge wasn't built, you know, it was open a few years ago now, can we just be really clear about what those improvements are that we're closing out?
Yep.
Can we just get some advice back on that?
So on...
that we can feed in projects that we think should be looked at or considered in context of it.
Yeah, so there are two questions there. The first of which is Ferrymead Bridge project. Does that include the whole Ferrymead Bridge project from start to finish, which is all the time from the work starting pre-earthquake to ending relatively recently with completion of the rework of that road junction? And I think we would expect that it would, because we need to look at the whole project through its various phases. And to what what's included in that project and what other related matters in the same environment wouldn't be covered in that project. It probably would be good for us to know that in advance of the closeout report so that we know what to expect. It's what's in scope and what's out of scope of that closeout report. And then there's another question, really by implication in what Yanni has said, that if we have got other projects that councillors feel would be good for future closeout reports, what's the process for getting those considered in addition to this list or in a future list?
Well, my understanding is that Councillor Manji, as chair, makes the decision around what's on the list. So I guess you'd have to go through Councillor Manji to...
Yeah, so I mean, it might be good in future if we were to have a workshop around this, maybe just a short half-hour workshop around it, so that there could be some discussion before we get to the point of a list being put in front of the committee. I'm confident with what we've got here, but yeah, I'm very aware that a more inclusive process may have allowed councillors to suggest projects perhaps in their wards or which they've been closer to through various committees and so on, to be included in this list. So yeah, there may be some improvements that we can make to process of putting a short list together with future iterations of this.
Certainly.
All right, thank you. Are there any further questions? Mike?
Just a quick comment on the Papanui Parallel Section 2. That's been completed for a long time.
Is it one, I mean, you're probably closer to this than most, is it one that you believe would benefit from us seeing a closeout report?
I don't see the benefit from it, but it was...
Is it if we were going to look at a typical piece of cycleway, or if we were going to look at a closeout report on a cycleway, is that the one that we would choose?
The theme does, they take learnings from every one that they implement, so I think it might be a doubling up.
Yeah.
So if we were going to put, I think if we were going to put one in front of this committee, so that this committee could be comfortable that work was been done.
Can we do the
and so
length of
on.
the whole Papanui Parallel? the whole road.
Contracts, but it was done with the same contractor, there's two sections, we do the whole road, cover, and we give the committee, like,
And you've already done that work, it's just a question of...
we've still got the project manager still in-house, and can do the weeks in the year,
Great.
just to pull it together into a report, I think that would be reasonable.
So take out the words section 2.
Yeah, just to say.
Do the whole thing. And then we can say we've done a closeout report on a whole cycleway. Assuming we're comfortable with that, then we can be comfortable with the way that you're doing closeout on cycleways.
Did we not do a closeout report recently on cycleway? Was just
Brendan's report. Yeah. Brendan's report was the last closeout report.
There
the
would...
Little River one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Little River. We did one on the Little. I just yeah.
If
It
you've
was
got
the
a...
Little, it was the Little River. Yeah, I'm just wondering, do we need to keep doing them on cycleways if we're not? Oh, we can do that one, but it's just.
I think it's a question of putting one of them in front of this committee so that this committee, within its terms of reference, can be comfortable that closeout reports on cycleways have been done well. It may well be that the ITI committee already is comfortable with that and it's fine. Please do.
Cromer's Trail is due to finish in the next few months, in the next few weeks actually, and we'll be looking to close out report on that, and that looks at the whole route. Again, a number of contracts through that route, but we've got to the whole route, that would be a recent one.
Would there be more value?
The bulk of work on Papua Trail has been finished for at least 2 years.
Why don't we look at the more recent one? And given that it's going to take us some time to get through this list, that means that when we get that information, it'll be recent. So replace Papanui Parallel then with Quarryman's Trail, okay? And then we're not duplicating work, we're looking at recent completion. Yep, that sounds eminently sensible to me. Good. Any other questions? All right, so I'm happy to move this. Is there a seconder? Tim Scandrett. All those in, is there any debate? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Thank you. So that